Plagued with worry and insomnia since saving New York from destruction, Tony Stark now is more dependent on the suits that give him his Iron Man persona, so much so that every aspect of his life is affected, including his relationship with Pepper Potts. After a malevolent enemy known as the Mandarin reduces his personal world to rubble, Tony must rely solely on instinct and ingenuity to avenge his losses and protect the people he loves. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Watchers Week. This is a nerdy show for nerdy people because that's who we are and that's who we care about. Every week we talk about a Marvel film leading up to the release of Avengers Infinity War. This week we're talking about Iron Man 3. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm surprised that, today we are all here. It's a special day. We're entering phase 2, and we get to talk about garbage. So joining me is Steven. How are you doing, Steven?
Well, I'm not doing so hot. You can say I'm a blue da ba dee ba da 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 ba dee da blue ba da ba dee. Oh, what?
Please
Okay.
stop.
All right.
Please don't. No. Okay. All right. And we also got Tim with us.
Hey, how's it going? Ready to, third time's the charm, right?
Not in this case.
No, not in this case. It's funny that the movie, one of the little bits.
3 strikes, you're out. Does that one work?
Definitely.
3 strikes, you're out.
One of the little dialogue bits Tony gives as he's narrating in the beginning of the film is he says, "I'm going to start again." And rewatching this movie, I was thinking, you know what? They probably should have started again. They probably should have just scrapped that whole garbage script and started all over. And I'm sorry, guys, that I'm having to get intense about this, but yeah, not too many positive things to say today about Iron Man 3.
Yeah, I mean,
well,
go ahead, Tim.
Well, I was just thinking, like, it continues the trend with the whole, double beginnings kind of thing.
What's
with
that?
this one kind of what?
What's that? A double beginning? Where's that from? What trend did that start off?
In Iron Man 2, when it kind of started off with, what's his name? Whiplash's dad dying, and then the Iron Man Expo or the Stark Expo. Those were 2 starting points.
Oh.
And then the other one was, what was the other one? Was it Thor or Captain America?
I believe it was Thor. We had the ripple in space, and then they cut to Odin narrating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I get what you mean, that, like, sometimes it seems like the movie can't really make up its mind on where it wants to start. This movie probably has the worst, I will say the worst opening I've ever seen in the past 5 years. We get a flashback, a completely and utterly pointless flashback that is 100% exposition with Killian's character setting up his character, who I'm just going to say right now, I know that, what's his name? What's his first name? Aldrich Killian?
Mm-hmm.
I was fixing to say Adrian, but I was thinking of somebody else. Aldrich Killian, he's in the comic books, but what I thought this movie was going to do was actually do an amalgam of 2 villains, which the Iron Man movies have done before with Iron Man 2. I thought they were going to do an amalgam, and this was actually going to be the son of Obadiah Stane, and that would have, that would have been your motive for your antagonist, is you killed my dad, I'm here to get vengeance, instead of I'm the Riddler, I hate you, and I'm jealous, and all that.
Wait, you're saying, first of all, didn't Obadiah in the first movie say, "You're like a son to me, Tony"? So did he say that with a son he actually has? Or no? Like, this guy had no sense. I mean, unless it's an illegitimate son that he didn't know about.
Well, yeah, it could have been that, or it could have been a Lex Luthor type scenario where his dad, Lionel Luthor, sort of like rejects him, or something along those lines. But I mean, it probably would have had to have been an illegitimate child, I would think, just because his whole character was supposed to be shrouded in mystery to begin with. Um, but yeah, I just thought that would have been the route to go, and that's what I thought they were taking, where they were taking this movie. When I had first seen all the trailers, I was like, oh, okay, this guy got cast for a reason, because to me, anyway, he kind of looks like the actor that played Obadiah.
I know it sounds like you guys are upset with the villain, but I think we're all forgetting that the main upsetting part is that they changed War Machine to Iron Patriot. Where did my War Machine go? Jeez Louise.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not good with kids. You know, the kids don't like. You know, they can't just say buy the action figure War Machine. You know,
Yeah.
that would be crazy.
Put a big old gun on it.
Yeah, they made the gun look like a laser gun.
I remember seeing the trailer and I was just like so surprised. I was like, "Whoa, Iron Patriot? Is Spider-Man gonna be in like the new? Are they gonna put Norman Osborn in? Like, do they have the rights to Norman Osborn?" I was like so ready to unpack this, and I mean, I think they pulled kind of a DC on this one with the trailer, because not only did they advertise Mandarin, I say Kingsley's Mandarin, to be the main antagonist, but they also showed Iron Patriot, but not that. Oh, hey, it's War Machine. They did some crazy editing with the speech over certain the dialogue over certain scenes. I understand trailers tend to do that, but I feel like this one they really pulled kind of a 180 on the audience.
Yeah, it didn't help that also Iron Patriot was walking up like with a bunch of military guys onto Air Force One. So you're like, man, is Norman Osborn like maybe the president even?
Yeah, because they just threw in President Ellis all of a sudden. Like, nobody mentioned the president in the past MCU movies.
I don't think anybody cared about the presidency. I mean, technically, it's only 3 movies because Captain America, or 4 movies, I should say, because Captain America
and
happened in the past.
Even in Avengers, the nuke or missile or whatever was like launched by a council of shadowy people, and the president, I don't think was. Well, I mean, they didn't say it was any of the president, but I mean, it could have been the president in that council.
Yeah, he probably just did it.
Well, that's what's kind of weird. I'm glad you brought that up, Tim, because I was always curious about that too. Why wasn't the president the one directing that council? But it is kind of interesting because obviously we're going to talk about this film later on, but in Winter Soldier, when they bring back that council, it kind of seems like they have a director of each nation.
Yeah, it's kind of UN-y.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And so, like what you were saying, possibly I mean, I don't know the actors that are playing each individual on the council, but the actor who's the American guy that's on the council, that could possibly be our president.
No.
Oh, you don't think so?
Well, I was going to say maybe our past president, but I think President Ellis got sworn in a little bit like just a couple months after. No. I mean,
that doesn't make any sense.
No. Yeah, that's not. I thought, if anything, that guy on the council was the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. guy that was secretly Hydra.
Well, yeah, but in Winter Soldier, it's a different guy.
I don't know.
Yeah. Redford in Winter Soldier isn't it just becomes like the director of Shield, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, so if anything, he's the brand new one, and the president is probably in the council.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Wait a minute,
Yeah,
wait a minute,
I
guys,
agree.
guys. This isn't Civil War. This isn't Winter Soldier. This is Iron Man 3. We've gotten way off topic.
Well, yeah. For good reason, because there's not much to talk about this film except how much of a piece of garbage it is. But what did you guys think, honestly and truthfully? Tim brought up Spider-Man earlier. I want to know what you guys think of Jamie Foxx's Electro's twin brother from another mother, Guy Pearce, Aldrich Killian.
What are you talking about?
He's saying they're both terrible villains.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
What do you think about it?
Well, if I may go off on if I pose a question to you guys. So it says that Aldrich Killian created AIM back in 1999, or he was a part of AIM back in 1999. Because if
He created AIM.
He created AIM?
Yep.
Yes.
Founder.
Okay. So
He made
I don't know. It seems like he was just a part of it, and they just took him as a young scientific mind. But if that were the case, it never really said that AIM died with Killian. In fact, they may have taken a life of their own and are now still a threat to anybody. And maybe, hopefully, we'll get AIM back in the future Avengers and hopefully a MODOK. What do you guys think about that?
I mean, anything would be better than this guy. Yeah, that's all I got to say. Yeah.
We didn't really get to see a lot of AIM, so I'm assuming they're not gonna come back because we didn't really get to connect with any of the people to last. It wasn't like Hydra, where we got Von Strucker, or any of the Hydra weapons or something like that. All we really got from AIM was Killian and then those extremist soldiers, which they called AIM soldiers. So it was like there wasn't really a scientist or kind of any of a scientific core to AIM. It was kind of just like, yeah, it was like what's it? Am I thinking of Punisher? Trying to think of another like just nameless face organization that they don't really mention. Oh, Roxxon.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of just like a name drop, and I feel like that's what this movie kind of basically is. It's a lot of name drops. Like they mention Extremis, but Extremis doesn't, apply to Iron Man's armor. It's what the bad guys do. That's their program. They mention AIM. They mention
Iron Patriot.
what else? Yeah, Iron Patriot. It's just kind of a fan service. A lot of just Marvel labeling on a movie.
Yeah, and they probably did that because they were trying to reflect what was going on in the comics during that time. But yeah, speaking of Iron Patriot, I totally forgot he was in this movie. And then upon watching it, I was like, oh yeah, Iron Patriot, completely, just buried in this film. I mean, because I actually liked it.
Pushed aside.
What's that?
Oh, I was saying he totally gets pushed aside. Like, nobody blames you for forgetting about him because he barely has any screen time.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I actually didn't really mind him being Iron Patriot. I know a lot of people were actually against that. Because
I didn't know we can't be friends anymore. Jeez.
Well, I thought you said you were confused by it.
Yeah, I'm like, why isn't he War Machine, the coolest dude? Why did they have to call him Iron Patriot?
I can see that, but I mean, it made sense somewhat with the narrative, at least rather than other things that didn't totally went against the narrative. But anyway, that part for me made sense because he was working for the government already, and so it makes sense that the government would want uh, to have like a hero of their own, and it kind of reflects what was happening in the real world. What Stephen had mentioned, that you can't sell a toy named War Machine, so they wanted to make their own patriotic hero.
Right.
Captain America exists. he isn't gone in Iron Man 3.
Yeah, but is he like he's just he he's old school, and he's not that great. It's not very military. It's more like soldier. Like Captain America wants you. It's more propaganda. War Machine gets Iron Patriot gets spit done. He busts down doors. He's he's more, I think, UN notified than Captain America. I mean, of course, it's red, white, and blue in Iron Patriot. But besides all that, I think you two are missing the point of how great Rhodey, Don Cheadle, is in this movie. Because even when Iron Man, Tony Stark, loses his suit and is home aloneing it, Rhodey is surrounded by 42 weaponized iron suits and takes out like a couple of extremities on his own. And the final fight scene, going through the mansion with the Mandarin all by himself, just with a sole pistol, shooting better than Hawkeye ever would. He's a total BA in this movie, without a doubt. Way more so than Iron Man Tony Stark.
I mean, I don't disagree with you.
One's a soldier and one's like not at all, firearm trained. So, I mean, it wasn't surprising, but I guess it was appreciated, I guess.
Yeah, it's like, well, I mean, put one guy against the Mandarin that's a soldier. Put one soldier against the Mandarin, and you would probably he would do okay. But man, I don't know. Rhodey, Don Cheadle is
Which
pretty
Mandarin?
amazing.
Kingsley Mandarin or Killian Mandarin?
Both. They're the same person.
No, I mean, one's an actor and the other one's like fire-breathing dude.
Right, but the idea of the Kingsley Mandarin came from Killian Mandarin.
Right. But what I'm saying is neither of them are threats. So it's not that impressive to be like, think about it,
What do you mean they're not threats? They kidnapped a president.
Yeah, and then what?
They were going to burn him on live TV.
But he's in a robot suit with a big gun on it.
That doesn't work.
Why? Because
it was only made for Don Cheadle. And Go ahead.
I don't understand the villains. Again, we're all circling it around the villain, but I mean, I think there's holes in this whole movie. I wasn't sure on the message. Is this supposed to be like, the Mandarin, where Kingsley's Mandarin says the enemy is America, but then the Mandarin turns out to be a domestic threat or something? Is that the message of the movie? Or is it that what's it? What's it? When Pepper gets mad at him, sorry, I was trying to remember. Right. Pepper gets mad at Tony for building a bunch of suits, like 42 suits, right? This is the Mark 42. She gets mad at him for tinkering, and then when he's having panic attacks, the way for him not to have panic attacks anymore is to build a suit out of like home appliances. Like, I didn't understand why it was a problem then, and yet also the solution later.
Well,
I mean,
when it comes to Pepper, everything's a problem. Okay. She's always nagging.
I'm gonna have to stop you right there, Doc. There is nothing wrong with Pepper in this movie.
Yeah, there is.
Go ahead, lay it on me.
I mean, she there's no character development with her. And the fact that they were like, let's give her powers and maybe she'll be cool then just goes to show that there's no character development with her and nothing, interesting about her. Um, like I said, like from Iron Man 2 onward, she just becomes this nagging, annoying character. Um, yeah, that's it. She just becomes
Uh,
nagging, and they had to give her powers, and now she's probably going to be hopefully not nagging in Avengers Infinity War, wanting to
well, they took away her
team up.
powers in the same movie
Oh, right. Yeah, I'm getting confused because
because
there's
yeah.
rumors about her suiting up or something, and yeah,
Well, that's what I mean. I would appreciate that because for some reason Tony explains like, "Oh, the reason I'm doing this is because, I'm inadequate and I want to protect you." And yet, he out of all those 42 suits he made, none of them is made for Pepper, which would be the ideal thing. If you want to protect Pepper, why don't you just build her a suit?
yeah, that is like
Because she
programmed
doesn't
to
want to
protect
suit.
itself.
She doesn't
Yeah.
want to suit. She doesn't want to have Iron Man guarding her 24/7.
Well, she's crazy.
Who's crazy?
She is for thinking that. Like, who cares? I would throw a suit on her if a terrorist is fixing to like shoot her with mouth flames.
Well, he
You don't
doesn't know
even
that.
need to. She doesn't even need to wear a suit. He could just put Jarvis remote controlling the suit.
Right.
That's what
And
I'm
I
saying.
said
Yeah.
he doesn't want that. Would you want an Iron wrong people to ask, but would you want an Iron Man following you around 24/7, intimidating you, scanning everybody you meet? It would be a horrible life.
It's better than Happy doing it.
Well, happy she can handle and she knows it's coming from a good place.
I don't know. I just
Look,
it
okay.
didn't make it did the any of the reasoning didn't make any sense in this movie.
What
And
reasoning? Come on. Give me some reasons.
why didn't Tony build her a suit instead of making him 42 cents? 42 suits. Why is it better for the suit to come in parts versus when all the other past suits could come up to him through Jarvis normally in one piece?
Um,
That's a good point.
wait, what was the point? I didn't quite hear it because you broke up a little bit.
Why did it take him 42 times? Why is it better for the Mark 42 to come out to assemble on him in pieces versus just the whole thing opening up and him stepping in it like all the other suits?
Okay, first of all, the Mark 42 does not only call to him in pieces, it also goes to other people in pieces. Like, for instance, he only had a hand and a boot, and he took down all the henchmen in Mandarin's mansion. So, like, maybe
Uh,
all you need is a hand and a boot. Maybe all you need is the thrusters. So there are only
So
parts that you may only need that the suit calls upon you, and it also is used as a shield. Like you said, why doesn't he give Pepper a suit? Maybe he just what injected himself so that he can make a gesture and have anybody get on the suit and for it to work with them.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Why did it take 42 times to do that?
Well, first of all the 42 suits were for a problem he had in mind, and the suit that he built solved the problem until he went paranoid and said what if and thought of another problem, so he created another suit for that problem. So in all instances he kept uh thinking of problems and thinking of ways to find them and building more suits.
I don't know.
The
It
even the even bigger problem with this movie is Ty Simpkins' character Harley, an
Oh, yeah.
absolute throwaway. Like, yeah, he's a nobody. He's not
I
pushing.
didn't
He's not furthering the cinematic universe further in any way, shape, or form.
not only just on the grand scale of the cinematic universe, but on the smaller scale of Tony's journey. Like he hinders it constantly. he gives Tony panic attacks, and also in the very, kind of the climax, he delays the suit up of Tony when he's captured because he locked the barn door or whatever. So it's like, what if anything, you're making this harder on me.
Yeah. And what
He did.
was Tony's message to, like what you were saying, the whole message of the movie, like what was it? Because I believe Tony tells Harley at one point, referring to bullies, he basically tells him that he needs to like fight back or whatever. And I was like, really, dude?
Yeah, because kind of, I mean, that kind of leads into what like the Mandarin's goal is. I wasn't sure on this, so I wanted to check with you guys. But before, I mean, the Mandarin we could talk on and on about. I mean, I'm sure we will. The other one is Rebecca Hall's character. I did not care
Hold up. I
for.
want to talk about Harley for a second because
Okay.
there are some points that he brought to the story that were needed. He wasn't really a throwaway character. Yes, in the grand scheme of things, he was. But for Tony's journey of not salvation, but like recovery, Tony's journey to recovery is that when the kid simplified everything for him, the kid, you said his name was Harley?
Yeah.
Back Hill Country Kid called simplified everything for him because he was like, so it sounds like you're a mechanic, right? And then he's like, yeah, I am. And so when he said, so you're, and he like is about to say Iron Man, but Tony rather says the mechanic because he doesn't want to be associated with Iron Man. He likes the title, the mechanic. It makes him feel good and
No.
not as much pressured as Iron Man. It's like a different person to him. He's just the mechanic. And later on, he just helps simplify the whole problem with the exploding people, and he like is just like a mini Jarvis for Tony, not so much as to tell him what to do, but also to help him think it out.
That's not it at all, because the kid says, wow, is that Iron Man? And he goes, technically I am.
Right, I know. Technically he is. He's right. That's also another problem he has, is that people think, the problem was that he thought he needed suits to be Iron Man, when in fact he was himself Iron Man. Tony Stark.
Yeah, and he
Iron
believes
Man.
that.
Iron Man isn't just Jarvis or just empty suits.
Yeah, I think Tim's point is that he believes that he is Iron Man without the suits, and he's not trying to repress it by calling himself the mechanic.
Right. The only problem I had with the kid is at the very end where everybody shows their happy ending and the kid opens up his garage and it turns out Tony gave him a bunch of tech goodies and gave him a car, right?
He didn't give him the car. The car was still there. He just restored the car.
Right. But the car probably works. And I'm just saying that kid probably still has bullies. So basically everything in that room is now the bullies.
No, I don't think that's the problem. I think the problem was with the kid. That he doesn't benefit the story at all. It's just to have a kid in it.
Yeah, it's kind of, and again, once we get to Spider-Man, we're going to talk about this, but it's kind of the issue, although it's not that big of an issue in Spider-Man, but it's kind of the issue I have with Spider-Man, or Iron Man being in Spider-Man rather, is that...
Oh, we're talking about Homecoming?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that I know Peter and Tony are like really buddy-buddy in the comics, but that's a very different Peter Parker in the comic books. He's much older, so I can see why Tony kind of relates to him and sympathizes with him. But when it comes to these kids, like with Harley and a younger Peter Parker, I don't really see how they in any way can help Tony like recall a time in his life when he was that young and he was like, oh man, that's the time I wanted to be a hero, because Tony's whole thing is that he didn't become a hero till he was stranded in the desert,
No,
taken by
I don't think it's.
what's your
Sorry, I don't think it's. I don't think it's that he sees himself in them. Like in the ways of, oh, like you're. I think you're kind of relating it too much on the life of Tony that we've seen, whereas in Civil War we kind of got a little bit of. I was kind of a kid with dad issues, and uh, I only had like my mom. And that's kind of the same situation that both Harley and Peter are in. Harley mentions, dad's not around. And Peter, not even, my uncle's around. That's how bad I got it.
I don't think
Uh,
I don't think that's it either, because I think it's more of saying, why did you become a hero, young person who, has his whole life ahead of him?
So that
What?
doesn't fit into this situation. Harley's not a hero.
Right, but he's like, helpful. Like, well, I'm not talking about Harley. We're talking about Peter.
We're not talking about Peter because this isn't Homecoming. We'll talk
yeah,
about that later.
I just brought up Peter because
It's another Caucasian kid that he hangs out with.
yeah, and I don't really prefer to talk about Harley, and I was just trying to make a comparison.
If we don't want to talk about Harley, we can talk about Maya Hansen because I
Well,
didn't
no,
understand.
well, the reason I brought up Peter, sorry, is because I can see Tony relating more with Peter than I can Harley, because Harley seems to be much younger than Peter in Homecoming. But
Exactly.
But even in Homecoming, Peter is still pretty young, a younger Peter than in the comics. That's what I was saying. So it's kind of like, yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna talk about Maya Hansen now.
Who's that? I don't have a picture of her.
No,
She is
she's so irrelevant that she doesn't get a picture.
Rebecca Hall, though, is from Maya Hansen, sorry, is from no, Rebecca Hall. Ah, gosh, I'm getting the too confused. Rebecca Hall, she's from Prestige and also that really bad Johnny Depp movie. What
With
was
the
it called?
vampire?
No.
Anyway.
Transcendence.
Oh. Okay, yeah. Rebecca Hall, IMDb her, everybody. That's the actress that plays Maya Hansen, the worst character ever. Maya Hansen doesn't contribute anything but problems to the first minute she like shows up on screen, which is back in like the flashback, where she's like, I want to help heal people, but that's that glitch that keeps coming up. It freaking explodes. So yeah, I want to put that in a person. And then Tony responds to that by like, here, let me write a formula on a napkin or whatever. That'll help you figure things out or something. And she goes and puts stuff in and like, yeah, this is fine. Go ahead, go blow up everybody. Like, that's ridiculous. And then she comes in, causes strife between Pepper and Tony. And then also, am I supposed to be surprised when she has her heel turn? Like, oops, I'm secretly also working for the Mandarin. I work for Killian, the evil guy. It's like, yes, I was expecting that because you're a jerk this whole time. You're an awful person.
Yes, agreed. It it doesn't really work, her heel turn, because she knew what was going on. She, like, her plan was saying, let's destroy the world and have Aldridge Killian control it, but also let's get my product out to make me money or benefit people. I'm not too sure. To get me famous, maybe. I don't know what her goal was for the product itself.
I don't know what Mandarin's goal is. Does he want revenge against Tony?
Exactly.
Is he a warmonger? Is he Syndrome from The Incredibles? Does he want to be the hero? Does he want Pepper? Like, what does he want? What do you want, man?
He definitely wants Pepper, that's for sure. Everybody wants Pepper.
That's why I'm saying he should have been Ezekiel Stane you wouldn't have had to have that whole bad, terrible, awful flashback opening.
Well, my thing was, I think it was in Iron Man 1 we talked about how they originally were going to start off with the Mandarin, and that their plans for
oh,
Iron Man
right.
3
Yeah.
was have Obadiah Stane throughout the whole thing, and then Obadiah Stane be like, "Psych, I'm the bad guy," which I feel like this movie tried to do, because even
They went
Killian mentions that
backwards.
it was me all along. I'm the Mandarin. And I'm like, what do you mean all along? We just found out about you in this movie. You've only started kind of doing bad things right now.
Exactly, yeah. And
So I feel like this movie might have been like they blew off dust off that original like script, and was like, here, and like they kept the pages that were still like, you know, dry or whatever, still legible, and was like, pick out every other word that fits and try to fit it in the story.
yeah, and see, for me, like going back to this whole Mandarin thing and who the Mandarin was, and oh, it's a big mystery and blah blah blah, and then it turns out it's not Bing Kingsley. That was such not only lazy and awful writing, but it was such a throwaway of Ben Kingsley and
Yes.
his acting ability, because when those first trailers came out, those teaser trailers of him saying, "You'll never see me coming," and all, and doing how Kingsley do, I was
Mm-hmm.
so pumped. I was like, "Oh my God!" Like, I think it was the year prior we had gotten Dark Knight Rises, and it was kind of, it was entertaining, but it was kind of a letdown.
Yeah.
This seeing those trailers coming off of that, I was like, um, this is going to be, intense, like that intensity that Bane brought of,
Mm-hmm.
of terror and
Is
um,
that the Dark Knight Rises or the Dark? Yeah, that is the Dark Knight Rises. Yeah, you're right. Sorry.
yeah. Um, but yeah, and then they just threw all of that away. And going back to my Ezekiel Stain whole theory that I had before I had actually watched this garbage film, I thought that if Killian turned out to be Ezekiel Stain, I thought there was going to be two villains rather than amalgamizing Killian and Mandarin.
I think the uh what's it called? The contradicting part, or the hypocritical part, that is another thing about this, because when I saw the trailers, I wasn't expecting like, oh man, I can't wait to see Mandarin have his 10 magic rings. Like, no, I wasn't expecting straight off from the comics, which I think some people get misinterpreted about comic book fans. Like, oh, they're upset that he doesn't have a Fu Manchu and the 10 magic rings that do whatever, you know? Like, that's not what I'm upset about. I'm upset I didn't get Ben Kingsley's interpretation of the Mandarin to be an actual threat.
Yeah,
Like, it made sense. Like, I wasn't expecting for these rings to be in the movie. Yeah, no way. I think the the thing that even Marvel recognizes is that to be like, oh no, you know, the you know, uh what's his name? I keep forgetting Kingsley's name. Statler,
it's
What are you
like
talking
the actor.
it's Slate.
What is Kingsley's name?
I think it's
Statler.
Slater or something like that.
Anyway, his like they did the short film All Hail the King, and that proves that like even Marvel was like, well, I mean, we're not gonna drop the ball on this guy, like, we're not gonna do him dirty like that. And it's just like, then
Which,
why'd you do it in the first place? Like,
yeah, what was
why
the
did
whole
you have
point
to
of
make this?
this?
Yeah,
And
I think
to
it
your
was just
point,
try to do a bait and switch to make this movie have something, because if anyways, it would be pretty straightforward and bland.
yeah, which I mean, it kind of is. But to your point
Yeah.
about the 10 rings, even though I completely agree with you, all I wanted was to see Ben Kingsley and Ben Kingsley's interpretation of this character.
Mhm.
That's all I wanted, and I would have been happy. But I will somewhat disagree with you on the 10 rings. They missed a big, huge opportunity here because you have this entity, this terrorist organization called the 10 Rings. And then you have 6 Infinity Stones. I mean, could they have made Mandarin be in possession of one of those stones? Possibly. They could have put it on a ring or something, and he could have been
Nah.
battling Iron Man, and we could have gotten some awesome fights rather than a bunch of CGI garbage and exploding people and fire breath.
You know, to be honest, maybe. Um, because for me, I think it was either I forget which one I'm more upset at. It's either that Tesseract being a gem. I think that's what it was. I think the Tesseract being a gem because I thought that the Tesseract was the cosmic cube,
Right. Well,
and
it
then it turns
is.
out
The Tesseract in the comics is the cosmic cube. They're synonymous.
right, but then it turns out to be a gem.
So
Yeah.
what's
Is
the
the
point?
cosmic cube a gem?
No.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. I mean, no, not in the comics, no.
That's
But
what I
in this
meant.
movie, yes, in the MCU.
Well, yeah, I know that's what I meant. So they could have done that with Mandarin. Like I understand that that was the space stone. So I mean, maybe shouldn't have given like okay, so Loki's scepter is blue, but then it turns out you open it up, crack that thing open. It's the yellow mind stone. I was like, well, that was a that was a fake out. That was kind of a lie, Marvel. That was just to cover the bases. It's also yellow. Psych.
Yeah.
So for me, let's make Loki's scepter the space stone, and that's how he opens up the portal and blah blah blah. And let's just make Loki's magic the one that, mind controls people. And then let's give the Mandarin the Mind Stone. So that way that explains why he's such a threat because he kind of just mind controls people.
Okay, so
And
never
then, I mean, you
before.
get the
Wait,
whole.
that would explain. That would
Maybe,
have.
maybe. Go ahead.
I was gonna say you would have to explain an Infinity Stone before Infinity Stones, I believe. No, in Avengers, yes, in Avengers. No, yeah. So you're saying that?
Yeah. Well, no, I'm not saying explain Infinity Stones. Say it's a ring. You know, it's a gem that's get put on a ring, and that are like, take the ring off. Hey, we don't have to work, and they just leave it as, oh, it's the Mandarin's ring. And then later on,
Right.
in the Age of Ultron, like all that other stuff that was like, hey, that's a stone, that's a stone, that's a stone. It wouldn't have been that different.
Right. We could have had a post-credit scene of someone saying, "Hey, we got to lock this thing up. This thing's an Infinity Stone."
Again, that's to make the rings work. However, the rings weren't needed in this movie because of the direction that they wanted to take Mandarin. The thing
But
was
my
is that
thing is the rings. I mean, unless you're referring about the physical rings and like their power being there, I get that. Yeah, we can push that aside. But as far as the organization, they needed to be more prevalent because what is this film doing to
yeah,
drive the narrative further? Not even in the grand scope of the cinematic universe in general, but of the Iron Man trilogy as a whole. It completely
we didn't need
disregards.
yeah. We didn't
Yeah,
need the extremist soldiers. They could have been the 10 ring soldiers that were amped up with the whatever heat thing.
oh my
Right.
God,
Okay.
yeah, exactly.
Here's the thing, Doc, is that you're saying what does it do? What does the organization do for Iron Man? But it doesn't really do anything because you would be thinking about that throughout the MCU. Oh, what about the 10 rings? They're still a threat. This wraps up Tony's past movies. This wraps up all the bad guys, all the theories of Iron Man 1 and Iron Man 2. And it says, hey, it's done. Don't worry about it. The 10 rings is over. The Mandarin's over. Stop asking us to do it. From now on, Iron Man is just going to be now a cameo to other MCU movies. And we're just going to get Robert Downey Jr., Tony Stark from here on out.
No, yeah, I understand that they quote unquote wrapped it up, but for me, it wasn't satisfying. It was lazy, and it kind of took a dump on the two other previous movies, because you're building up this huge threat that should have been Iron Man's personal Thanos, uh,
Yeah,
amongst his trilogy. That's what I'm saying. His trilogy.
I
And
could,
yeah,
I was gonna say I think it maybe if they played it into it more, maybe like remember the 10 rings that kidnapped you all those years ago, Tony? Remember the 10 rings that got Whiplash into the US and was that big headache for you? This is their leader. This is going to be a big chance of vengeance for you and justice to be served. But they didn't do that. They were like, nope, AIM is the bad guy, Killian is the bad guy, and also Killian's the Mandarin and not the Mandarin that she thought it was. It was
yeah,
like,
Also,
whoa.
completely out of left field.
I was gonna say Killian is also the 10 rings, right?
See,
There
that's
is
that. I mean, I guess technically, but were the 10 rings even a thing, or were the 10 rings AIM?
right. I think the 10 rings is AIM, and
But it's all a facade.
right, exactly. So wait, did AIM plan on taking Tony Stark prisoner in the first Iron Man? And did AIM plan for Whiplash to come to America? Or did
So
maybe
are the
throughout
10? Oh, go ahead.
go ahead.
My
No,
thing.
throughout this whole journey of the 10 rings and AIM creating the organization and creating the Mandarin, that it took a life of its own and said, you know what, this is actually a pretty good idea. We're just going to use this idea, which I think is what happens.
So why didn't? Okay. Because if Aldrich Killian is the Mandarin, or at least the leader of the Ten Rings, he gets to kidnap Tony Stark in the very first movie. Why doesn't he reveal himself then?
Well, because I'm saying that maybe the 10 rings took a life of their own and went into smuggling and kidnapping and fighting a war. And they just, even though Killian created the 10 rings and the Mandarin, some people just use the name as a shadow organization and fear to strike fear. Like, you know, they just use the name to get props.
So was the Ten Rings pretending to be AIM, or was AIM pretending to be the Ten Rings?
AIM was pretending to be the 10 rings.
Which is what I was saying, that this whole thing was
So
basically crapping on the previous films.
I mean, yeah, if that's true, then that sounds like it. I mean, I guess the whole thing is a message that I don't know.
Well, they said at the end that the message is that we all create demons within us, right?
Yeah, I guess the message is don't be a jerk. Like, seriously,
Yeah.
all you have to do was listen to this guy's thing. Like, you didn't even have to join up or fund it. You just not had to leave him on a roof,
And
which is,
also,
I don't know about you guys, but I think that's very easy for me. Like, I do that almost all the time. I don't leave people stranded on rooftops.
I was gonna say you
I mean,
better
technically,
not
he
go.
wasn't even stranded. I mean, he could have gone down. He was just mad that he psyched him out. He was like, "Oh, what?" Like that's like some like if Tony, did his little, what's it, what's that thing where you put your finger on your shirt and you hit yourself, boop him on the nose?
You boop them,
Like,
yeah.
yeah, exactly. That's basically the same thing that Tony did. Was like, he said he was gonna be here, but he wasn't.
Right, but that's the
I'm
start
gonna
of
kill him
Killian's
now.
plan.
What's that?
Killian, that's the start of Killian's plan is that he realized the anonymity and realized the secret is to hide behind a target that you actually gave the people to hit. So in a way, Tony created his own bad guys.
I don't.
but see, we still,
Who's this bad guy, Tony?
What
That's what he
Tony?
decides up there. I want to get Tony back, or he
No,
wants to get the world back.
what? Okay, first of all, I have no idea his actual overall plan. I think he told Pepper, Extremis is to upgrade our DNA, and also at the end, on the when he's talking to the president, or wait, he's talking to his main henchman. He said, "I'll have the most feared terrorist in one hand, and the ruler of the free world in the other." Do you know what he's
Right.
talking about?
The president and Mandarin.
Right, but he was going to kill the president, right?
Yeah, and the Mandarin wasn't real. So, I
So,
mean, they saved themselves, like Tim was saying earlier. Marvel
Yeah,
did
he
because
wants.
they did the one shot.
Yeah, and the vice president was going to take over because he works for him and he wants Extremis for his daughter.
right. So he was going to have the vice president after he killed the president. So the vice president was going to be the president, and he was going to have uh, Kingsley Mandarin in the other hand, and he was going to control war and provide supply and demand.
Why doesn't Tony then tell? I guess it wouldn't make any sense later on. But I
Which
mean,
that whole plot of his sounds like the garbage premise of the Star Wars prequels. Sounds like some war, uh, political taxing crap, garbage that nobody cares about.
it sounds to me like Justin Hammer and Obadiah Stane. Like all they did was just get the first bad guy and you know put a new rapper on him, and it's like, here you go, here's your villain. This is the same thing. No, it's different. No, it's the same thing. They're all warmongers.
Right. And again, okay, I'm sorry because I've already said this twice, but if Aldrich Killian had turned out to be Ezekiel Stane, just think of this. Just think of this. It would have had prominence not only in this film but also in Civil War because Tony would have killed this guy's dad, and that would have
Well,
made
he
this
did.
guy want. Yeah, yeah, that would have made this guy want to, murder Tony, and then if that would have played into, I mean, obviously his character, Killian's character, would have been wrapped up in this movie, but for Tony's journey, that could have played into Civil War because you have the Winter Soldier killing Tony's dad, and it would have been handing Tony a mirror and being like, "Oh no, am I turning into Stain's kid? Like, who am I? Like, why am I doing this?"
I think that would have been fine. At least it would have been different. Like, oh, it's this person who has a vendetta against you, Tony, versus I'm jealous of you and I want money too.
Yeah, he's a bad guy that they wrote to be killed, which I also have a problem with is how he was killed.
You
If
got
you got
blowed
Yeah,
up twice.
right. So he had the Mark 42 on his body, and even though the Mark 42 has been through hell and back, so the explosion I could see didn't do a whole lot of damage, and he's like, "All right, I'm gonna kill you." But then also he landed in the fire, right? He like exploded and fell off a tower. But
Yeah,
then to
but
have a
we saw that
missile,
the extremist people they're not affected by fire.
right? So then how does a tank missile thrown at your face kill you? And how do you not regenerate exactly back? Which
Exactly.
I think he does regenerate, right?
I mean, I would assume so.
Right. It's kind of like Cell from Dragon Ball Z. Is that as long as one piece of him remains, he can regrow back.
Okay. So are you saying this movie's terrible in that a sense?
No, I'm saying that he's still out there, perhaps, maybe still controlling AIM or the Ten Rings as the Mandarin.
Well, we know this because of the All Hail the King movie.
Wait, okay, no, I don't know that movie.
It's the short film All Hail the King, where it's like an interview with Ben Kingsley's character.
and
Afterwards?
Yes, he's in prison.
yeah,
Oh, so he's
and that
alive.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Tim's referring to the one shot, and that one shot again is such garbage because it's trying to save face. Marvel's trying to save face for this poor excuse of a film. And the even sadder thing or sadder truth is that I would think less than 5%, maybe 10, and that's really pushing it. Less than 5% of the actual movie going audience is going to watch that one shot. So you really didn't save your film, Marvel.
Do you guys want to hear a little trivia thing? Is that this movie had an hour and 5 more minutes before it was cut into the theatrical version.
Thank God. The only saving grace of this movie was seeing the Mark 33 suit, which was in the movie universe the actual Silver Centurion suit. I know for Tim it's the Mark 5, the suitcase.
Ah, okay, here you go. Check this out. Because I don't know about you, but I do not remember All Hail the King that much. It's like only 15 minutes long, and I did not watch it again. So the interviewer tells Slatery, whatever, Kingsley, that
Are you
his
talking about
portrayal.
Trevor?
Trevor, that's what his name is. Okay, Trevor. Yeah, his last name is Slattery. So the interviewer tells Trevor that his portrayal has angered some people, his portrayal as the Mandarin, including the actual Ten Rings terrorist groups. So there's an actual Ten Rings terrorist group that isn't part of the whole plan.
Oh, so you're saying that there was a small group of the Ten Rings.
Yeah. And then there is actually a Mandarin, and that he's a member of the Ten Rings terrorist group.
Yeah.
They said that. They said that.
Yeah. And then the interviewer is a Ten Rings member too. And he breaks Trevor out to meet the real Mandarin.
Why?
What?
Why did they break him out if if his performance angered them?
Probably so they could kill him.
It's all a facade for like, it's like what's it in Civil War where Zemo's pretending to be the guy. He's like doing it for show, and then it's like, ta-da, we're gonna get out of here.
Okay.
So and like the thing is that uh Trevor doesn't know he's gonna get like offed by the Mandarin because the Mandarin didn't like pretending to be him.
Yeah, which completely, that whole one shot completely convolutes this story because
It's
according to this,
hypocritical.
according to this story, Killian was the inventor of the Ten Rings. So yeah, doesn't make sense.
It's redundant
So it sounds.
because
Go ahead.
I'll get it in my final thoughts. It's all right. Go ahead.
I was gonna say it's. It sounds like you two are pretty mad about the switcheroo of the Mandarin and the fake out of it, right?
Well, yeah, this whole episode's been the negative zone pretty much.
Okay, so writer Drew Pearce is the one responsible and the one who you should focus your hate on because it was his idea. Let me say again. Drew Pearce Pierce. Maybe I'm saying that wrong.
Is he related to Guy Pearce?
Maybe. I'm not too sure, but he went on to do Mission Impossible Rogue Nation.
Yeah, it's Guy Pearce.
But he was the writer for that said, hey, what if we had a fake Mandarin? And the director, Shane Black, was like, that's an excellent idea. Thank you for solely having the idea of doing a fake Mandarin, Drew Pearce.
Well, anybody could have ideas.
Oh, no, wait. Drew Pearce is sorry to interrupt. Drew Pearce is the co-writer, and then Guy Pearce was like a Guy Pearce. Yeah, is Killian. Yeah.
No, I know that. I said, is he related to?
Yeah. Sorry.
Probably.
Okay. Anyway, but people can have ideas all they want. I'm sure they had an idea to actually throw MODOK in as Iron Man 3.
Yeah.
But I think it's the problem is with Shane Black. I don't think you know it's there's a big gap between Iron Man 3 and like Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. Like these like I don't there's no AC/DC in this movie.
There's no
How did we
Samuel L. Jackson in this movie either. That's why I
how
think
did
it
we
is what really is the problem.
how did we have an Iron Man movie with no AC/DC? Like it's so far off from what Favreau did with the first two. And I know Iron Man 2 was a little bit at Marvel or Disney or whoever was getting a little, their fingers into it all for Favreau not to do his thing. And that's what probably stirred him away from doing a third one. But I mean, man, did it suffer, I think, just quality wise.
Well, actually, on that point, is that Shane Black received from Disney and Marvel $60 million more to make the best movie ever. So in total, making the budget $200 million. So after Avengers, they were like, "Wow, this is gonna make us money. Here's $60 million more to make the best movie ever." And this is what we came up with.
Yeah. And what's crazy is this movie. I mean, it's not crazy because the second Iron Man film was, you know, fairly decent as a critically. But this movie, I believe, did outdo the first two Iron Man
In what sense?
in box office.
Oh, right. It's the third highest grossing movie in the MCU in
Well,
total out of like the 23 movies I think there are.
I think, I mean, that's definitely because of the trailer that they put out, and this being the third and final Iron Man standalone.
Yeah, it
Like,
has to be.
I don't think it was the movie quality. Like, oh man, like I got to go see that again to like rewatch it. I think everyone was just. I think it falls under the same problem as like Spider-Man 3, the Raimi Spider-Man 3, is that it had such a high, distance to fall. Whereas Iron Man and Iron Man 2 were this great buildup that when it drops, it has a bigger impact.
I actually, that is all true what you said, but you mentioned Jon Favreau, and I actually really like his character in this one. We got to see Happy the boxer, and we got to see just him being pretty hilarious as the character throughout the movie. And I don't know, that was one of the high points for me.
I was gonna say,
Uh,
do we want to go into final thoughts?
well, I have some questions here that I forgot to mention that, we jumped around.
All right.
But I was going to say the part where Tony lands in the backcountry hillbilly Tennessee town, he meets the extremist people and the mother of the son who blew himself up because of it, said, like, here's the file you asked for. And it's all the
Mhm.
file information to tie extremists with that bombing, right?
Yeah.
But why did all of a sudden did they decide now is a good time to cover our tracks? Like, why didn't they do that before?
Um,
Also, it was. Do you think it was also a Superman reference, the way he landed in the backcountry via like flying rocket, and there's a pickup truck there? I was like, oh my god, they're trying to do a Superman reference here.
no.
You didn't get that? I totally got a Superman vibe from that.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Crash landing in back hill country next to a pickup, Superman.
All right. Um, to answer the question, I think the reason why the AIM people decided to start covering their tracks was one, I mean, they kind of alerted Tony, so like by hurting Happy, so they're like,
No, they didn't mean to hurt Happy
he's.
at all.
But once they found out he was, they started covering their tracks because Tony's competent.
Oh, okay.
Two, they're terrible bad guys.
Yes. Also,
Those are my two
I
explanations.
was gonna say Harley, the kid from Back Hill Country, Tennessee, said that he had a sister, right?
Yeah, Dora Explorer owner.
Where is that sister throughout the movie that nobody is taking care of?
It's irrelevant.
No, no, no. Dad left, mom's at a diner, and I'm gonna help you, Tony Stark. Did he like leave the rock? Like, where's the sister? Could have said like at a sleepover or something, but
He
now
probably doesn't
throughout
have a
my entire
sister.
mind, throughout the entire movie, I was worried about the sister all of a sudden.
He probably doesn't have a sister. It's probably his watch. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's my sister's watch. Careful, it's a limited edition. How would you know it's a limited edition? Just be careful with it. It sounds like this is your watch, Harley.
Now I know why you get bullied all the time, Harley. It's because you wear Dora the Explorer limited edition watches. Okay, here's another one. Is that the Mandarin shot a guy on live TV,
The
right?
Mandarin.
And he was the
Yeah.
second to last lesson. He's like, this is second to last lesson. I'm gonna shoot a guy on TV unless you call this phone, right?
Right.
And yet, Trevor Mandarin said at the end, it's all green screen, it's all fake. Sometimes I'm not even there. But then, how would you make a video? How would you shoot a man on live TV if you did CGI it? So that would mean that they knew the president was going to call and then fake the ring and fake the shot, like all based pre-knowledge of this. They expected the president to call and they shot the video pre-recording. So the video that we're watching isn't live, it's a recording.
Why isn't it?
Why isn't it what?
Why isn't it live?
Because you can't shoot a guy on TV and have him survive.
He didn't survive. He died. That man's dead.
No, he said it was fake. It was all green screen.
You can't take anything that this dude says. He's a junky, washed up actor that's out of his mind.
Yeah, and I think when he was talking about the green screen, he was referring to I think there was a scene where they showed him Kingsley Mandarin in like the desert, right?
Yeah.
Or something like that. Yeah, so that was probably the stuff that was green screen that he was referring to. He wasn't referring to
No. Tony said when he had a gun to his face, he said, "You killed a guy," and he goes, "No, I didn't." He goes, "That was all fake. Look around you,
But
props and costumes."
That's the thing, though. They
Oh,
told
yeah,
him
yeah,
it was
yeah.
fake when it was actually real.
Yeah, he was just like probably drunk too.
He thought he was like, oh man, this guy's really committed to the role. He
Yeah.
ain't moving at all.
You sure he's okay? He's sleeping? Okay, well, all right. But can we go via speedboat now?
Like,
okay. So probably
that would be ridiculous if the bad guy was like, I'm the bad guy, but I haven't really been hurting anybody.
Yeah. I thought Steven was referring to two different scenes. That's why I got confused. But my brain was sort of shut down, which it kind of was while watching this movie. So, yeah.
Oh, I totally agree with Bruce Banner at the end of this. I checked out at the beginning. Like, yeah, me too. Jeez Louise, this was the most boring thing ever.
Okay, last one is that can Tony really command his suits to blow up at any given time? Why is that an option? Why have that button on your suit? Is to say like, oh, okay, blow up.
Well, it was surely
somebody else wears it.
Yeah, it was surely bad timing too, because he could have used all of those 45 suits and that self-destruct feature on the Ultron bots later on, but wasted it. So congratulations, Tony.
They were made out of vibranium, so it'd probably be a little harder.
I mean, he could have contributed more though.
Yeah, he definitely could have. But that's okay. Also, there's one more thing that I don't know if you guys noticed that I made sure, because I kind of had to rewind it and such, is that Tony took out the shrapnel that was in his heart from the first movie back in 2008, right? Or 2009 when he got hit by a missile. So he took it out of his heart. He then made out of the shrapnel that was in his body, probably like 3 years. For 3 years that's in his body, he made a necklace out of it and gave it to Pepper.
It's disgusting.
It's disgusting. What? Oh, here, baby, I love you. Did you sanitize this? Why is it gooey still?
Yeah, what is the symbolism behind that? You're the shrapnel in my heart that nearly kills me every day.
That was driving. You're always coursing, trying to shred my heart up.
You're the infection in my chest.
Baby. You want to kiss me on my face, Silt? You want to kiss me on my face, Iron Man mask, Silt?
Yeah.
No?
And again, that whole thing, oh my God, I completely forgot about that. We didn't even talk about that. That whole thing of him, quote unquote, curing himself with, taking the shrapnel out goes completely
against another
against...
thing he could have done before he got to 42 Iron Man suits. I'm fixing a lot of problems. Maybe I should fix the one in my chest.
Yeah, but it goes against, though, not only the other two films, but for me, it kind of goes against the comics as well.
Just that?
Well, yeah, because that's the whole, thing with Iron Man is that he has that shrapnel in his chest, and he's always trying to find new ways that not to cure it or completely remove it, but to I guess stabilize it and keep it from killing him.
Right. I mean, to be fair, Tony Stark has been not sleeping, hasn't been sleeping that well for a long time, like probably for a month or so. So he has a lot of rash decisions and poorly planned ideas.
Well, all those panic attack scenes, I didn't even talk about. Those were just god-awful acting on RDJ's part.
What? I actually really like those scenes.
No, oh my God!
Do we want to get into final thoughts?
Yeah, let's get into final thoughts because I got some stuff to say.
Do you want to say some stuff, Cian, first, or who do you want to go first?
No, I don't want to go first. I want to, go ahead.
Okay. I'll build off what you kind of mentioned with the panic attacks. I feel this movie is just very redundant and contradictory because Iron Man has panic attacks from New York, but then he gets over them. And then he has to learn that he's Iron Man by giving up being Iron Man. And then he has to hang out with the kid to stop hanging out with the kid. Like, knowing that Age of Ultron kind of comes after this, we didn't have to have him, like, have that whole PTSD Nam flashbacks when in Age of Ultron he sees all the Avengers knocked out and then he gets paranoid again and then builds Ultron. And then we didn't need him giving up Iron Man by blowing up all the suits, only to have in Age of Ultron him suit up again in a brand new suit. Like, all of these points were meaningless. I feel like this movie, like, it was an Iron Man movie that focused on Tony Stark going to a small town, hanging out with a kid, leading to a fight with this new bad guy and his goons, and they kidnap the president for a reason. It's just a lot of different concepts that kind of, it's hard to put in the same film, and it leaves, I think a lot of audience members confused and uninvested in the movie. I feel like this is just, I'm just gonna say it. The problem is Christmas. Disney looked at the Marvel movies, or Marvel looked at themselves and said, "Hey, we don't have a Christmas movie," and for some reason, this movie takes place during Christmas, and it doesn't have any moment. It has no weight into the story. It's like they're like, okay, what are the big Christmas movies that are like actiony? Die Hard and I guess Home Alone for the kids. And that's what they did. Okay, have Tony Stark build a bunch of Home Alone gadgets and go all Die Hard. And this movie's just basically Marvel's Die Hard. You got one guy not in a superpowered suit going around taking out dudes. It's the bad guys are built on this facade of terrorism, just like what's the guy's name in Die Hard? I'm forgetting it. Gurkovich? Gruber. Hans Gruber. Hans Gruber pretends he's a terrorist. But then he's secretly trying to get money from the bonds in the Nakatomi building. Same thing with Killian. Oh, it's all this facade of the Mandarin and terrorism. Psych, I just want money and power. So that's what I think of this movie. It was just a Christmas movie. It's just to fill a gap, a corner on the Monopoly board for Marvel to cover or Disney to cover, I would say. I don't know. But yeah, I give this movie 2 out of 6 Infinity Stones. It's not the lowest rating because I feel like the casting is great and the special effects are very on point. But that's really kind of the only redeeming factor. Sir Ben Kingsley, Robert Downey Jr., Don Cheadle, Gwyneth Paltrow, they do their best. And Guy Pearce, not so much. I mean, I guess it's just the writer's fault. I felt like it was weird how he pulled out a Heath Ledger's Joker where he just kept on mentioning, like, my father used to once say, early bird gets the worm and the mouse and the cheese. And my father once said this. And like, what? Okay, does your dad have anything to do with this?
According to the doc, it does.
Yeah, that's... but yeah, 2 out of 6. That's what I'm giving it.
Yeah, I mean, when I was watching the movie, I kept thinking, oh man, they're gonna totally reveal it's Ezekiel Stane because of what you just said. They kept bringing up his dad, which was completely irrelevant. Harley's character, completely irrelevant. Pepper getting powers, completely irrelevant. We're gonna take those away at the very end.
Gary,
which
Ralph,
one?
The news guy. That's a big fanboy of Iron Man.
Gary, the fanboy.
Oh,
yes.
I don't even remember.
Gary does more than Harley to help Iron Man.
Yeah. Yeah, then we have
Harley and just Gary the guy, and it would have been fine. But Shane Black, of course, needs to put a kid in there. I don't know. Just got.
Yeah. Then we got Jack Sparrow as the fake Mandarin. We got, I said it before, Electro's twin brother from another mother, Aldrich Killian, as our main villain. We shoved War Machine in the very back because, that's how Hollywood do. And yeah, this movie overall is garbage to me. And I am still baffled, utterly baffled, that to this day, I don't even know why I'm wasting my time doing this, but I have arguments with people online, debates on whether this movie is better than The Dark Knight. That's right, better than The Dark Knight. I'm sorry, but if you think this movie, if you're out there watching this right now and you think Iron Man 3 is better than The Dark Knight or even The Dark Knight Rises, I forgot which one it was. Excuse me, but you are a moron. You need to go home, rethink your life, as Obi-Wan once said, as he Jedi mind tricked somebody. You need to go home and rethink your life, because this is utter garbage. I have to give this a rating, though. I was going to leave the gauntlet completely empty, but I got to give it a rating. yeah, like Tim said, special effects are all that this movie really has, to be honest. And so for that reason, I'm just gonna give this movie one Infinity Stone.
Oof.
And it's the pinky one, so it's the smallest.
The other thing, sorry, the other thing I forgot to mention too is in retrospect, and just to give some overall scope as to the rating of this film on Rotten Tomatoes and everything. This movie came out in 2013. A month ahead of it was Man of Steel, also came out in 2013. And then in 2014, we got Amazing Spider-Man 2. Now, and I'm saying this rhetorically to the audience, can you guess, audience, peoples of YouTubes and the interwebs, can you guess which movie has the highest rating on Rotten Tomatoes? Because it ain't Man of Steel, and it's not even Amazing Spider-Man, which I would watch 10 times over this movie. No, it's Iron Man 3. Yep, Iron Man 3 has let's see, it has a whopping, I believe, 93%.
Holy crap.
Yeah, let me see. Why isn't it coming up here?
There's a negative symbol right in front of that.
There should be. I can't find it. I believe it's 93. Amazing Spider-Man is at 52, and Man of Steel was at 54?
Sacrilege.
55.
Sacrilege.
Yeah, so.
All right.
I figured it was high, but I was not expecting it to be that high.
Well, comment in the comments below what the real rating on Rotten Tomatoes is for Iron Man 3.
Also, we'll accept any hate comments against Doc if he's angry to you about how Iron Man 3 is your favorite movie and it's totally better than The Dark Knight. Yeah, we'll accept those. We'll accept those too.
So you've angered a lot of people.
All opinions are valid. I'm just very.
Yeah.
I'm in the moment right now, guys.
You're in the moment. Okay, so I want to introduce something that we've been working on. Is that we have this little graph right here. Is that it shows you our ratings of the MCU films based on the titles on the x-axis and our ratings on the y-axis or whatever. I'm not in school anymore, so I don't have to remember which one's x and which one's y. And if not, you can also have these beautiful points, numbers if bar graphs aren't doing it for you. But yeah, that's what we got so far. So I'm just going to plug in Tim's one. Let's see. Let me put this in full screen. Boom. And dismiss that. Boom, right there. So then I'll just put Tim as a 2. And
did you have us pre ones?
What's that?
It's just I noticed that the scores for Iron Man 3 were preemptively 1s.
Oh yeah. I was expecting real low. So yeah, so I'm gonna give my low rating now. I'm gonna, talk a little bit, and I'm gonna try to defend this movie a little bit because you do have to rewatch this film quite a bit to get the full essence of it, to get the full meaning, to get the full enjoyment out of this film, because you can enjoy it. You can see the relationship between Tony and Pepper and the way that they mix and bond with each other, trying to work out a relationship, and Pepper trying her utmost and Tony trying to keep from making mistakes. Sorry. Well, we also get. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, go back to your soap operas. Continue.
Oh yes, I love my soap. I love me some soaps. Right. A lot of people have problems with this movie, saying, "Oh, what's with the Iron Man suits? Why are they so easily torn apart?" First of all, maybe because these extremist soldiers have fire-breathing powers and can melt Iron Man armor and can also rip them apart because they're super strong and have upgraded their DNA above human level. Also, because Tony built these Iron Man suits when he couldn't sleep, so they're probably not well made at all. They probably just have half-worked ideas. There probably is an Iron Man suit with like 3 arms, with like an arm on top of his head, and he's like, just in case, it was a little crazy. So that's why some of the suits didn't work. And of course, we know that Tony, in every single movie, does not test out his Iron Man suits. Jarvis always says, "Sir, I got some more protocols to run some more tests on the suits." And he's always like, "Nah, Jarvis, let's go fly. Let's go try to test out this flying suit that I just built 2 seconds ago, and let's see if it works." He's always done that. That's why he uses a Mark 40. Go ahead.
Kudos to Paul Bettany, by the way, as Jarvis. Just again, I think he's another star actor in this movie.
Absolutely, a lot of stars in this movie. But there are a lot of horrible, trashy, garbage people in this movie as well. Don Cheadle is not one of them. Don Cheadle is above everybody. He's right next to Kingsley, Ben Kingsley. Him are pretty top in this movie for me. And of course, we have the age-old question of why in God's blue earth did Tony wait for the house protocol? Is what probably you and the audience is asking, right? You two, Doc and Tim.
Yeah, I mean, 42 armors. After you threaten the terrorists, those would be pretty handy. He doesn't even lock his front door enough for Hanson to walk in. So, I don't know.
Right, because he used Jarvis too much. He was trying to solve Happy's clues that he left him. He was also trying to do, whatever Jarvis is doing on the runabout. He didn't tell Jarvis to minimize everything and focus on security.
But
he was
too fat. Go ahead. But and also you would think that after Iron Man 2, where his own friend, basically he didn't really break in. He was already at the at his house, but he basically broke in, stole a suit. You think after that all happened, you would keep your place on lockdown from terrorists.
Right.
Again, completely disregarding.
First of all, that didn't really happen. They didn't walk through his front door. And also, Rhodey had the codes to everything. He was acknowledged even to wear the suit. They said, "Oh, hey, Rhodey, want to take the suit out to test pilot?" And he's like, "Sure, I would like that." So the only thing about his security system is that for some reason they didn't notify the missile that was coming right at them, which I get. I totally get. But you also got to admit how great this movie is and how his Tony's relationship with Iron Man is, or should I say the suit, because Tony Stark is Iron Man.
Yeah.
We get to see the Mark 42 do some pretty spectacular stuff, like fly 2,000 miles per hour from Malibu Point, California to Tennessee. We get to see it take an entire mansion building head on through the water. It crash landed on him and was still able to survive. That's pretty amazing. Tony Stark is a genius. His suits are amazing. The whole Air Force One sequence where he saves all the people.
Did Tony make any heat-resistant suits?
I think he made something. Well, I mean, he made a suit where it can go probably light speed or like a rocket, and rocket ships create heat. So yeah, I would say so.
Could have just put that one on.
Yeah, didn't he have a space suit that they had marketed in the figure line and everything?
Yeah.
And I'm not just talking about for little kids, because they always make up suits for the little kid figures. I'm talking about the Hot Toys. What do you call those?
Oh yeah, they're doing the whole Hall of Armors, the Sideshow collectibles.
Sideshow collectibles. There you go.
Sorry, Steven. We keep on deterring you from your score.
It's also a very long score. Just so that to know that there are some people who appreciate the film. They don't like the film, but they appreciate the film, and I'm one of those people. That being said, I'm still only going to give this film 2 out of 6 Infinity Stones.
Oh, thank God. I was fixing to say, if you give this film anything more than a 3, I might have to break into your house in the middle of the night, and yeah, it won't be pretty.
I got a thought. I got a thought that could, again, another maybe way to fix Iron Man 3 uh, is we replace the PTSD with alcoholism.
No.
We have, instead of Iron Man building the suits out of like uh, fear and, anxiety, we have him build them out of just drunken ideas as he's, sipping out on the hard stuff. And he's just like, you know what? I want to go to space. I want to build a spacesuit. And like, I also want like night vision and go invisible and like all this stuff. And then when he's hanging out with the kid and going to meet the Tennessee mom, uh, it's in a bar. He let's have him order a drink and being like, yeah, give me that file. Also, since I'm here, might as well drink. And then with the kid, instead of getting a tuna fish sandwich, he's like, I also need a drink. And then when he's having a panic attack, he's like, I need a drink, and like tries to like go and find a drink. And that's like the whole thing, is that we'll finally have a, you know, let's talk about it. Tony's alcoholic, demon in a bottle. Because even though they say that this is kind of reminiscent of the Extremis storyline, it really isn't. I mean, very loosely, it's just a name drop.
Well, I agree with you on some points. Like they should have or could have done the alcoholism side of it. But if all this movie was to do was to say, oh, blow up all my suits or whatever, that way, because I want to start over or I don't want to be Iron Man or whatever, they should have led with that. Because after Avengers, if he was having PTSD, maybe the alcoholism could have been a way of dealing with that. And maybe he just got drunk one night and decided to blow up all his suits. Then that would have left him vulnerable for an attack by the Mandarin.
Well, my thing is that it would probably end well with him also like on the road to recovery, like joined up, an AA group, get that heart thing fixed.
Get Jessica Jones up in there.
Wear the white suit. Also, don't give Pepper your gross metal chest bloody pieces as a necklace. That was so weird.
Yeah, that was pretty weird. Here's another thing though, guys, is we don't like this movie, correct? It's because though the reason why this is the third most grossing film in the entire MCU is because it was right after Avengers. Avengers knocked the socks off of people. They were like, amazing, great performance. Josh Whedon can do no wrong unless you put him in the Justice League franchise, but that's for a different time. Any movie that followed the Avengers would have been the third best film in the MCU. So I don't blame people for liking Iron Man because they saw it through rose-colored lenses.
Yeah, that's a really perfect way of putting it.
Should we head off into the negative zone now?
You should talk for like a good second for a little second while I get that negative zone.
I thought that we basically did the negative zone with us being so negative.
I like to reside in the negative zone a bit, kind of see what the, life is like on the other side of the fence. But I think there's some people out there that bring in certain viewpoints that we might not have covered. I mean, a big part of us was the Mandarin, but who knows? Maybe somebody's really upset with Don Cheadle in this movie.
Nope. Those people can go in a hole and bury themselves. Okay, sorry. Now let's head on down to the next.
Buckled in?
Hold up. All right, whatever. All right, gallery. Freaking get these negative zones. I was not prepared for all of a sudden. All right. So, negative zones. It was really, actually, in all seriousness, this was really hard to find a negative zone in this movie, because I had to go through probably about 70 9 out of 10s and 10 out of 10s before I got to the first 4 out of 10. And since then, it was really hard to find anything lower than that.
Oh my God.
But let's start with
first one?
Let's start out with 1 out of 10. The first 1 out of 10 I found. It's called Disappointing, Very, Very Disappointing. And he starts off Rocks. We'll call him Rocks. 1 out of 10. I hereby write a review in complete frustration after thinking about this movie. What did Shane Black do? Oh God, why? The complete hype of Mandarin, the dark scene where Tony carried his suit, what I thought came out all disappointing. You think there's a Mandarin with 10 rings of power? No! The Mandarin is a complete joke here. Why do they muck around with the already established storylines? They really should have kept to the basics of the Mandarin storyline. In a word, disappointing. The suits of Tony broke every time. I mean, the suits aren't supposed to be like these. Aren't the suits supposed to resist the thunders by Thor and all stuff? One of the suits here just broke by a truck crashing into it. What? In terms of story and comic book alignment, Iron Man 3 is the worst of the 3 movies.
Agreed.
Right. All right.
Yeah, I guess the suits taking apart is a big deal for a lot of people. I guess I didn't mind that much. It just was like, yeah, it's understandable. These are all like the rejects. I think for Maeva, the problem was the brand newest suit, the Mark 42, was over and over disassembling. And I guess that, I mean, it makes sense because it's assembled in different pieces too. So it's like, it's weak in that aspect, but also that's its strength. But I don't know how that's a strength in any aspect.
I was going to say the problem with the suits for me was the fact that I don't think I ever told you guys why the house protocol wasn't used, is because there was a mansion buried underneath the basement where Tony kept all the suits. So they couldn't even open the basement to get the suits until later on in the movie. That's why he didn't use the house protocol later on in the movie. The other thing about the suits is that the fact that Tony didn't need it at the end of the movie. Toward the middle, when he was in the Back Hill Country, he was freaking out. He had an anxiety attack because he thought he had to fight without the suit. That fear enveloped him and made him stop the car in the middle of the road. Later on, in the end of the film, when the Mark 42 comes back and disassembles and crashes on the floor and is totally broken, he's like, oh, okay, whatever. I'm fine with that. And you're like, oh, cool. Iron Man's kind of over the anxiety, which I thought was great too.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's it. I mean, because the thing he says is it's time for the house protocol, and it's not like he got an alert on his phone like he finally opened up the basement.
Yeah, that's what Jarvis is for. Okay, I got another one that's actually a 3 out of 10, and it just says awful film. It's by Mike Raven, 1889. I have no idea how old this guy is then, if he's 1889. Please save your money and don't watch this film. The plot is all over the place. You've seen Tony having anxiety attacks, then ping, it magically stops. How? The Mandarin is not true to the comics. In fact, it's miles from it. No 10 power rings. I mean, why change a comic book storyline and main villain when it's already there? Magically, at the end, Tony can get rid of the shrapnel in his heart and ceases to be Iron Man. Genius idea. Not. If that was the case, why didn't you have the surgery at the end of the first Iron Man? Secondly, where the hell are you going to do with the Avengers now? The ending with Pepper Potts, I'm sure, was to keep all feminists happy. I could go on with the flaws in this film, but I'll put it simply like this: for the first time in ages, I walked out of the cinema. Thanks for ruining the trilogy, Shane Black. May we never see you again. Wow.
Yeah, there are two films I can think of where I really wanted to walk. I was gonna do it, guys. I was gonna walk out of the theater. The first being Green Lantern,
Of
and
course.
the second was this movie. Yep,
Wow.
What was the first one?
Green Lantern.
Green Lantern.
From the moment that movie, I don't mean to get off topic here, but since I already brought it up, from the moment Green Lantern started, I already could tell this was garbage, and I was like, "Get me out of this! Abort! Abort!"
Yeah, I saved myself. You know, you told me not to watch it, and I have not watched it. I have no idea what it's about. I just know that Ryan Reynolds is in it. That's all I know.
The sad thing is I was all decked out in Green Lantern memorabilia, and I felt like taking off my ring and throwing it,
Oof.
but I didn't do that either.
Okay. Yeah.
Again, I
Agreed.
think also
Wait.
that doesn't really fall on Ryan Reynolds, just in relation to this movie. Like, it's not the actor's fault. I think it's just the writers or maybe the director's fault in the
Right, or
direction
the
that they
CGI
took the movie.
people's fault. Okay, so I got one last one because I'm just it was negative, but also a solution to a problem. Because this guy gave it a 1 out of 10. However, he also gave it an alternate ending. The ending it deserves, I think. All right, so I have no idea this guy's name because he shall remain
MODOK.
MODOK. Okay, this is MODOK. The ending should have been in the Mojave Desert with an extremist base of maybe 10,000 soldiers. The U.S. Army fights against them with tanks and choppers, but they make rubble out of them, the extremists to the soldiers. Then Tony and Rhodey make their way to the base, but the suits lose power and they face the soldiers ahead of them. As the soldiers walk toward them, the other suits emerge from the dust and the darkness behind Tony and Rhodey, meaning the 42 other suits, I assume. And the war begins. So this guy has it in an epic battle scene, and we lose. And then another epic battle scene where hopefully we assume win. But what do you guys think if that was the true ending? Would you have appreciated it more or less?
I mean, I think tonight we've already mentioned 10 different ways they could have changed this film, 10 variations. So, yeah, pretty much anything they could have done probably would have been for the betterment of this film.
Absolutely.
The sign off we got for Iron Man wasn't this, send off we deserved. So yeah, I think that this guy's suggestion is just as good as any.
Okay. Well, let's get out of the negative zone and back into the negative zone where apparently we're currently residing.
Yeah.
Yay. All right. That was Iron Man 3, guys. I can't believe we made it through without one of us rage quitting and totally signing off and ruining the live stream. I'm really glad. I'm really glad you guys kept your composure together.
We do it for the fans.
Do it for you fans. You hear that? And
Speaking
of doing it for the fans, I have to mention real quick the giveaway. The giveaway is happening, what, a week from now? The announcement?
Black Panther comes out next week. So, yeah.
Find out everything you need to know about the giveaway at the Watchers Week on Instagram. Right there, you'll find all the rules and such. And then we'll announce the winner next week when we do the podcast live on air. It's going to be really exciting. I hope you guys appreciate. Speaking of Instagram, let's just give off ours real quick. Tim, where can they find you?
They can find me at Fishbone Malone on Instagram. We talk about comic books. We talk about movies. We talk about video games. I am currently in a Dragon Ball Fighters hole right now. That's all I've been playing recently. But yeah, I've gotten a lot of new followers. I appreciate it. Everyone seems really cool. We get to have a lot of fun there. So yeah.
Awesome. Can't wait. Dr. Cosmic, where can they find you?
Y'all can find me exclusively on Instagram at Dr. Cosmic. That's spelled Kozmic. So it's a little bit different. But yeah, I am super excited, not only for our giveaway, but Black Panther in general. Hashtag Wakanda Forever. Hashtag Journey to Infinity. And also hashtag Lando. I really wish we were getting a Lando movie and not a Han Solo movie, but that's just me. And you can find out more about that on my Instagram.
Awesome. Really glad to see Star Wars getting some Lando love or whatever the hell his name is. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of Star Wars. Anyways, you cannot. Yeah, I threw that out. It was a little taste, a little bitter angerment.
Sign off before they get you.
Yeah, I better log it. All right. You can probably tell me how much you hate me at _nerdtron on Instagram, where I'm not really doing much. I'm just trying to make enemies, I guess, on the internet by saying Landio, whatever his name is. I love Donald Glover, but I don't really like him per se. Yeah, he's a traitor. Anyways, that'll be it for us on the Watchers Week channel. Next week is Black Panther. We'll probably watch it and immediately after do a live event so that it's completely fresh in our heads. We're super excited. The hype is going to be too real for this movie. It's already 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. And we're way more excited than... I think we're more excited because we don't have to do Thor to the Dark World next week. I think that's what we're most excited about. So, take care. Keep on watching, and we'll see you next week. Thank you ever so much for viewing this, maybe subscribing to this, and telling your friends about this. We appreciate you guys so much. You guys have a good week. We'll see you next week.